Hey, come on, Neil. Hey, doing well. How are you?
What's up everyone, welcome back to another day in my life. I'm Garnet, a game developer based out of Melbourne, Australia, currently working at Tin Man Games. For the last year, I have been working on a virtual reality project called Neon Squad Tactics, which was released in June for the Oculus Quest. Since then, my job has been porting the project to different devices, with our next planned release being on Steam with PC VR and the HTC Vive in mid-September. I have a link in the bio to the Steam page, so definitely be sure to check that out and wishlist the game as well. As always, my day starts with a stand-up meeting, but Garnet, you're sitting down. You're right, stand-up is used because it's meant to be a short meeting that's completed within a few minutes, opposed to a formal sit-down meeting. It's a common practice in the games industry, and the purpose is to recap what you've done, what you're doing, and what could potentially get in your way. During stand-up, I like to write down in my notebook what I aim to get done for the day so I can keep track of my own progress. Today, I'm starting off with fixing up the loading screens in the game. As we've been using Oculus throughout the project, a lot of the overlays and splash screens are designed for the Oculus, so I'm doing some refactoring to get working on the HTC Vive. It's an extremely tedious task that takes a lot of testing in the headset to make sure it's looking and feeling correct, but once that's completed, I'll actually be moving into making an official test build for the project to upload onto the Steam developer page and ensure that it's all working on Steam's side as well. But before we get into that, I need to appease my caffeine addiction and get a coffee. Alright, it is time to jump back into Unity and get started on this. For context, my only experience with the HTC Vive has been on this project. I never even owned the headset until I started this porting process around 2 months ago, so this is all new to me. And I want to say, even if it looks like I know what I'm doing, I promise I don't. I spent hours reading documentation on this and I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it. Basically what I've done so far was get the splash screen working to show the company logo, which I don't think you can see in the editor, but it does work in the headset. However, the way we were loading scenes before works right only in the Oculus. Steam VR has a completely different setup, which I'm currently trying to fix using the Steam VR and OpenVR SDK. So I've just wrapped up with the loading screen setup. As I mentioned, I'm using the Steam and OpenVR SDK, meaning a lot of the code is already set up, so it's largely about me just experimenting and figuring out what the code is trying to do. I thought it was more of an individual object setup, so I can load levels as long as I have an instance of the script. However, they use a static variable which would be shared amongst all instances. Since there were multiple scenes I was trying to load simultaneously, it could only let one level load as that would take precedence of the static variable and it wouldn't be reset in time. A quick fix, but took some time in testing to figure out what was happening. It's about 1:30 now, so I might take a quick break and get some lunch. I bought some fancy bread this morning, so just gonna have that and a nice homemade olive oil based dip to go with it. And because I'm 9, watch some cartoons while I eat. Jumping back into work now, the next thing I'm looking at is basically finding all the places that we have a loading screen and replacing the code with the new Steam VR loading screen. I didn't create the loading screen systems, but I did set up the code for it when it should be called, so I'm pretty familiar with the areas I need to look into, and I'm hoping it's straightforward so that I can get a build going. Finally got that all done. I went through and tested in-game to see how the new loading screens felt, but it kind of felt like it made sense in some areas to leave it out. The reason I had to do it at the start was because there were different scenes that were loading in and out, so the player camera would sort of bug out in the headset. But there's other scenes where it's happening in-game and the additive loading doesn't affect the gameplay, so it's not as jarring. Anyway, this took a bit longer than I hoped, but I managed to get it done, and it's nearing 6 PM, which is the end of the workday for me. So I'm actually going to write a recap of my tasks in my notebook to bring into stand-up tomorrow. I'm also going to start on a build that I can test first thing tomorrow morning in the Steam Developer Hub. That'll wrap up today's day in the life, and as always, if you enjoy watching and want to see more, subscribe to the channel to keep up to date, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you want to see next. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.